Hi beautiful people, I hope you are all well. Welcome back to Mental Health Monday, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. My name is Maddie and every Monday I make a video on something to do with mental health. Today's video I wanted to make because I think it's probably one of the most popular things that I get asked in my DMs, and this morning I was watching This Morning and there was a dad on there who lost his daughter to suicide. I think she was about 14, and he later discovered that she had this private Instagram that she was posting all of this stuff on, and he had this guilt that had he known he might have been able to help her. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. Like, I've been in the position where I've been too scared to tell my parents about what I've been going through, so I thought I would just give you guys my advice on how to tell your parents that you're struggling. I know this is like one of the most scariest things ever. You might not want to tell your parents because you're scared how they will react. You might be embarrassed about how you feel, or feel embarrassed telling them how you feel, and you might not want to put them under any more stress if they're particularly stressed out about something at the moment. However, let me tell you, number one, as for stressing them out, all adults have stresses and I'm sure they would much rather know than not know. Number two, you don't know what their reaction is going to be like until you actually tell them. The thing is with this one, you may well have gauged that they react in a certain way to, say, seeing things to do with mental health on TV, but it is a learning process, it is a growing process. My parents knew next to nothing about mental health and would probably have done the same, and then they went through what they did with me and now they're super clued up. So don't expect your parents to know everything like straight away. If they are saying negative things about mental health, it's probably just because they have literally no idea about it. And basically, the sooner you tell them the better, because the sooner you can get help, the sooner the weight is going to be lifted off your chest. I think for me, I like to think that if it was, say, like my child or a loved one of mine, I would so much rather they told me than suffering in silence and keeping it to themselves. So I won't bore you with my own story about telling my parents. I did actually touch on this in last week's video. Basically, when I was 16 and at the time I was doing my GCSE exams, I opened up to my parents about how I was feeling, because I was feeling really depressed, and I just knew that it wasn't normal to feel like as depressed as I was feeling. Like, I knew it was normal to feel stressed out during exams. However, I don't think they really took me that seriously, and they just kind of put it down to teenage hormones. So after that, I didn't really tell them much. I mean, I think I told my mum that I was going to the doctors for my mental health when I eventually did. I think she somehow found out that I was on antidepressants, but we didn't really speak about it. And then after my first year of college, so when I was 17, I had what I refer to as my big breakdown, and my parents were kind of forced to find out because I was literally a mess. Basically, like, my mental health had deteriorated throughout the summer, and then my boyfriend at the time had broken up with me, and I was just like, I was not okay. I was heartbroken, but like, this was like a whole new level, because I became very heavily suicidal, self-harming, etc. within a very short period of time. And I just remember my mum walked in on me self-harming once and she just absolutely broke down in tears. And so I did say to her, like, I tried to tell you about this earlier, but the thing was, I hadn't told them about my self-harm when I'd opened up to them. Had I told them about my self-harm, then maybe they would have realised that it wasn't just teenage hormones and it was more serious. But anyway, that's me. Now my parents are super understanding, literally amazing. And so I've compiled a list of tips if you are thinking about opening up to your parents and you don't really know how to go about it. This is what I would have done if I had have had more time, basically. Okay, so tip number one is to sit them down at a time where there is no distractions. It is important that they have your full attention. And so for this, like, you can do this on your own terms. You can literally send them a text and ask them to both come up to your bedroom, or you can speak to the parents one at a time. Maybe start with the parent that you feel closest to, or if one of the two parents is actually contributing to the issue, it might just be a good idea to speak to the one parent that you feel you get on with better. Sit them down and say to them that you want to speak to them about something that is really important, so they know that this is going to be a serious conversation. Number 2 is to, previous to this, write down what you want to tell them. So I think a lot of the time, because these things can be so nerve-wracking, you may get to the point where you say to your parents, okay, can I talk to you? And then you just completely freeze and forget everything that you wanted to say. So to avoid this, write a few points down on your phone or on some paper, so that when it comes to explaining to them, you can literally just like read out the points. An alternative to this as well is, if you really don't feel comfortable speaking to them face to face, then write them a letter. I think that's a really good way of starting the communication, because then they can come to you, hopefully they come to you after the letter and speak to you at a time that's convenient to them. Number 3, so within what you're telling them, I think it's important to let them know how you feel, whether it be depressed, whether it be anxious, whether you're self-harming, suicidal, etc. Tell them that this is how you feel, and tell them how it affects your day-to-day life, just so that they can get a feel that it's not just teenage hormones, that it is a more serious thing. The next point is to tell them what you want from them. So you're obviously telling your parents for a reason. You're telling them because you either want their help with maybe going to the doctors, finding mental health services, you want their support, you want them to be there for you, to speak to you when you're feeling low, etc. I think one of the really good things about telling your parents is that hopefully they're going to be a little bit more understanding with things. So say you're locking yourself in your bedroom a lot, you're finding certain tasks really hard to do, and you want to be cut a little bit more slack from your parents, who have no idea what you're going through. So they're saying, oh, why aren't you doing this, why aren't you doing that, and you want so badly to tell them it's because I'm depressed, blah blah blah, but you can't. By telling them and by saying, look, like, I just want to tell you this because it's not me being lazy when I don't get out of bed, I just feel so depressed that I physically can't get out of bed, just so that they start to understand your past behavior, you know, and cut you a little bit more slack instead of getting angry and frustrated with you. Number 5, so you told your parents, you told them how you feel, what you want, and then comes their reaction. If they don't get it, don't panic, because parents aren't perfect. Not everyone is going to get it first time, especially if they have no experience with mental health. They may well be confused, they may be angry, they may have a lot of questions, but remember, this is not necessarily because of you. I feel like a lot of parents may react and get very sad or upset because they feel like they failed you as a parent, and they feel like they failed to recognize the signs of mental health. But you just need to reassure them that mental health is a very secretive thing. It is very, very easy to hide, and it's not their fault. They've not done anything wrong in their parenting, unless they've been a really shit parent and contributed to it. If they dismiss it and just think, no, like nothing, it's just you being a teenager, and don't really pay attention, again, don't panic, because it may well take them a while to process what you've said. Hopefully they will realise that it is serious if you've come to them about it. I think it's important to remember to include in what you're saying to them, in one of your points, say, I was really scared to open up to you, in case you just dismissed it as teenage hormones, in case you got angry at me, so they know that their reaction is really, really going to affect you. I mean, I don't really know, like, what would be your ideal outcome? I guess for me, I would just want my parents to, yeah, I'd understand they'd be sad, but I just want them to be like, okay, like, how can we help and how can we support you? And if they really just want to dismiss it and not think about it, you can say to them, okay, well, if you don't want to help me yourself, then you can at least help me with, say, like, getting referred to a mental health professional. They may feel more comfortable helping you do that, so you can talk to someone else, because they don't feel that they can speak to you and advise you on things like that. The next tip is to remember that you can share as much or as little as possible with your parents. My advice, because I didn't share everything and because of how things turned out, would be to tell them as much as possible. Obviously, you don't have to go into every single detail, but remember that you have the control. If they then ask you loads of questions, you can answer as many or decline to answer the questions. Like, it's completely up to you. It's why it's important to write things down beforehand, so you can kind of cover everything that you want to say to them, so they kind of get like a general idea. So I really hope these tips have helped. Remember that it can take parents a while to get their head around things. Like, this is their baby who they had no idea was struggling and is now telling them this. If you put yourself in your parents' shoes, you would probably be very upset that you didn't notice and that you weren't there for your child. So just bear with them while they digest what you've just told them. But after hiding for so long, telling your parents is honestly like the biggest relief. No matter their reaction, like, you've done that. You should be so proud that you've done it. It doesn't matter what comes after. The fact that you've had that courage to open up to them is just incredible. And remember, if they still don't get it, there are so many other people and services that you can access and go to. You can go to your doctor, you can go to a teacher, you can go to like maybe an auntie or uncle or family friend who you feel may get it more. There are online communities, there's me, you have your friends. Like, there are literally so many people you can talk to and go to for advice, so you're not alone. It doesn't matter if your parents don't get it. So please do let me know in the comments what you thought of this video, if you thought it was helpful, if you told your parents, if you haven't told your parents, how it was. Yeah, just let me know. I am sending all my love and my courage to you guys. I really hope this video encourages some of you to open up to your parents and start that road to healing and recovery, because that really is such a key step, and you need people around you to help you get through tough times. So if you did find this helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, then now is your chance to click the subscribe button down below, and I will see you all in Thursday's video. Goodbye!